Join us each week for some booze-free banter about life without booze.
If you're entertaining the idea of cutting back your booze by a day, a week, a month, or for the rest of your life, we would love for you to tune in.
Buckle up and come along for a ride that may just change your life. Please note that some of the conversations we have may be triggering. Please reach out to your local support service in Australia. That's Lifeline 131114.
Hey, Maso.
Hey, Breeza.
Did you know that Altina LeBlanc is a non-elegant white bubbles built from botanicals? It features forest berry. This is a delicious native Australian plant that is super rich in antioxidants, but it is most importantly just delicious. And guess what?
What?
We have the co-founder, Christina Delay, on our poddy today.
Oh, my God.
How good. We've just finished chatting to her. How great was it?
Oh, she's so great, and I love it. She's actually a bit loose and leery like us, which we never expected.
We didn't know Christina really on a personal level. We just knew her at a business level, and yeah, we've peeled off some layers, and
yes.
we've revealed the party animal.
Yes. I'm glad we weren't all around drinking at the same time. It could have been pretty hectic.
Absolutely, but we have in our hot little hands the new branding of Altina. How unreal.
Mate, the thought that has gone into everything from the texture of the actual labels is just, you need to it is so incredibly well thought out. She actually gave a little tidbit about how the A is on the side. So it's about turning alcohol-free drinks or alcohol drinking culture on its head. Yeah,
yes. And at the end of our chat, we'd actually stopped recording at this point, but I said to Christina, has the the mouth holes in the cans changed? And she's like, oh my God, did you notice? Yeah. And it's all those little finer details that there's so much thought that goes on behind the scenes and hard work. This is like a year's worth of work, this whole rebranding. And look, I loved Altina's brand anyway, but now I love it even more.
Same. I can't wait for you to hear what we talk about when we talk about the actual name as well. The little I'm not going to tell you.
Yes.
For that.
Some good juicy bits. But what do you reckon, Maso? Should we get amongst it?
Get right into it. Here is Christina from Altina.
A big and warm welcome to Booze Free Bants with Buddies, Christina Delay.
Hello. So happy to be here with you guys.
Now, Christina is co-founder of Altina Drinks, which also happens to be our wonderful partner in Booze Free Bants. Thank you, Christina. We always we always give you guys a shout out, and we always end up with, we love you, Christina. We love you, Altina.
Oh, thank you.
So much love.
So today, though, we are here to talk about you.
Yes, exciting.
Yes.
So you've heard the show before, Christina. You know how it all rolls, and we're just going to throw you straight in the deep end with your shame story. Tell us a shame story when you've been on the gas.
You gotta have shame on it. Shame on it. Figure it out.
I must say, listening to your episodes and all the shame stories has definitely triggered some flashbacks. So I will preface my shame story with, back in my drinking days, I was always very proud of being the last one standing and how I could hold my booze. And so let's keep that in mind to start off with. I had never blacked out or anything, despite copious amounts of alcohol. So my partner, Alan, he decided to take us on a surprise, very, very fancy wine tour for my birthday. This would be sort of 5-6 years ago now. And he flew us down to the Barossa and got out at the airport. We got into this very, very fancy what was it? It was like a restored 1960s Daimler or something. And this extraordinarily charismatic tour guide was going to take us on a personal tour, not for one day, not for 2 days, but for 3 days through the Barossa.
Wow.
And, so we got into his pristine little Daimler and headed off to the hills. And so it ended up being 3 days of basically go to a winery, taste wine, eat food, go to another winery, taste more wine, eat more food. And, you know, that was amazing for the first 2 days, for the first 2.5 days, until it started to really get a bit much by about lunchtime on the third day. And I remember going to the sort of the tip of the iceberg, or the pinnacle of the tour was going to a particular winery, but tasting some whiskey from your birth year and from special years of significance. And I can't remember a thing about that. But got into his pristine Daimler, started driving back to Adelaide, and started feeling really unwell, like really, really unwell. And so I whispered, Alan, I'm like, is it really hot in this car? Like, I don't feel so good. I think I might have food poisoning. And Alan's like, oh, you okay? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, no. I'm like, stop the car. And the guy, the wonderful guy out the front, he was like, sorry, what did you say? I'm like, stop the car. And so he stopped the car, but not in time. And his beautiful, pristine Daimler was no longer beautiful and pristine. And so I was on the side of the road, absolutely dying, convincing everyone it was food poisoning. Because, you know, I was so good at holding my liquor. And yeah, just dying from embarrassment at the fact that I had ruined this guy's car. And he was such, you know, he was nice about it, but he was not okay. And then we got this big bill when we got home for cleaning and detailing his car. And I wanted to die. It was, definitely a shame story.
We've had a few of those actually, Christina, if that makes you feel any better. We have had a few on the show that have spoken about stewing in cars. So you're not alone.
Not at all. But you actually sound like our type of chick, a bit of a stayer, can hold her liquor, and last one standing. I think we would have been really good mates.
Yeah. I was always the one encouraging everyone to do shots at 2 a.m. Which is terrible. Which is just terrible when you look back at it. But
never ends well.
Never does. No.
As I say, things are different now. So let's dial it back though, Christina. You've given us a little bit of a snippet of your drinking habits, but let's take it right back to when you first started drinking. Tell us how old you were and how your relationship with alcohol evolved from there.
Yeah, well, to be honest, growing up, I did not really have much exposure to alcohol at all. My parents didn't drink. It was never really something that I was interested in. And really the first time that I even noticed that alcohol sort of existed was when I was quite far along in uni, actually, during my PhD, and we'd have sort of wine and cheese evenings and things. And I thought, gosh, I can't stand the taste of this stuff. Like, it's bloody awful. And then somebody goes to me, it's an acquired taste. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this wrong. I was like, no, yeah, okay, I like the taste of this. Of course, I can't possibly be, you know, someone who hasn't acquired a taste for something. And so that was kind of my first memories of really trying alcohol and understanding what it was. But it really wasn't until I'd finished my PhD and jumped on over into the world of consulting that I really got a good taste of the drinking culture. So this would have been back in maybe 2015, 2016. And consulting does tend to have a bit of a name for its boozy culture. So there was, you know, bar fridges at the office. There were always after work drinks. There were always networking events or long lunches with clients, or, you know, lots of different places where booze was just freely available, which, you know, to someone out of uni was exciting. Yeah, so cool. Look at all this free booze. And so, you know, I really jumped on the bandwagon. I was very, I guess, interested in climbing the corporate ladder. And to do that, I thought that, you know, all of the networking and all of the the socializing, the fraternizing was part of it. And hand in hand with that was the booze. If you didn't go out with the bosses and the directors on a Friday arvo and stay until the early morning, I felt you sort of missed out on that opportunity to make a bit of a name for yourself and get those relationships going. So that's sort of how it started, and how it I guess escalated was really wanting to climb that ladder and partake in the culture that was necessary to do that. The thing was, though, because everybody was doing it, it really didn't come across to me that there was any issue or any problem with how much I was drinking. And in fact, we'd even get to sort of 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and all the girls in the office would be like, "Oh, gosh, I really need a wine." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I also really need a wine." And even that I need a wine thing didn't really click with me until much later, until I'd actually stopped drinking. That was, the fact that we got to 2 and really needed a wine to get through was, not an alarm bell or anything. So it was really that culture that surprised me when I stopped and took a look at how much I was drinking. And to be honest, the only reason that I did that was that I got quite sick with IBS and had to take a look at everything that I was eating and drinking.
Interesting, which then leads on to the next question then, of what drove you to ditch the booze. Was it the IBS and after your ladder climbing?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it was it was the last thing that I let go of when I went through this FODMAP diet and had to cut all these things out of my diet to try and see what was triggering. And I was like, no way could it be booze. Like, I can't live without, enjoying a nice glass of wine. And it was, like, for me, a big part of drinking was enjoying the experience and I guess living that experience of, beautiful food and wine pairings and enjoying the ritual of having a wine. And I thought, I don't know if I can let that go. But I did, for the sake of not dying of pain every day. And so it did get quite bad. Like, I would fall asleep at 6 o'clock in the afternoon just as a reaction to all the crap going on in my system. And so, that was the real trigger for me. And I kind of just went, okay, I'm going to go all in on figuring out what's making me so sick and try everything. And I did that, and turns out booze was a very big factor, very big factor in that. But so were quite a few other things. Like, because I was drinking, I'd be drinking maybe 5 or 6 bottles a week, let's say. So maybe one a day and more on the weekends. And because of that, I was sleeping so poorly. I had to have 6 coffees a day or something just to get me through the day. And so there were all these little repercussions that I didn't really notice from drinking. And so, it was quite a few different things, but I think the booze was the biggest factor. And once I'd found that, and once I'd come back to a place where I was actually feeling good and able to function, and understand, what those intolerances were, I really never, ever had the desire to drink alcohol again, because it just made me feel so sick.
I can so relate having dietary issues and allergies and intolerances, so I get that. And that's the question I wanted to ask, is how did you navigate that in those early days of giving the booze a flick? But when you've got that, your body reacts and how sick you are, it's just a flat out no deal, isn't it? Did you struggle to remove booze, or because you got so sick it was just a non?
Yeah, it took me from when I started to realize, okay, I think I have IBS, let's start, going down that route. I think it took me maybe 3 or 4 months before I finally, there was a tipping point. I went on a work trip. and I was just so sick the whole time. I couldn't stay upright, and I thought, okay, this is awful. I can't keep doing this. That was it for me, and that's when I went into the sort of the investigation of all the dietary stuff. So but it took a while for me to actually, I guess, let go and surrender to doing that, even though I was feeling so awful.
I was going to ask Christina, was there, because your reason to quit booze was really out of a need, not a want, was there grief wrapped around that in the early days as well?
Yeah, and I guess there was sort of like an internal journey and an external journey, I guess, and internally, because I was feeling so unwell, I kind of had made peace with that. But then when I would go out with my colleagues and friends, similar to what I'd always done, that's when it became, quite hard. I sort of, at the beginning, I stopped socializing because I just found it so challenging to deal with all the awkward questions and I guess the missing out part. Like, everyone would be ordering their beautiful wines and food, and I'd be like, yeah, sparkling water, come at me. Like, it's just not nice. It's not a vibe.
What year was it, Christina, that this all went down?
That would have been 2017.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What sort of questions were you getting at that time? Were people hitting you with, and how were you navigating that? What was your comeback for that?
Yeah. So the first set of questions was like, are you sick? Are you not well? Because that, is the only reason that somebody doesn't drink. And I guess, among the people that I was hanging out with, I was always partaking.
You were the ringleader.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the ringleader until, the early hours of the morning.
You'd really fire up then.
Fire up. Yeah. But, that would be from sort of peers and friends, but from sort of the acquaintances or the higher ups or things, it was things like, are you pregnant? And I just thought, oh, come on, like, even if I am, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not drinking booze, like, at this point in time. And then it was just like, if I didn't have some really great excuse, I was like, oh no, I'm driving home, so I'd always drive everywhere. Just so I could use that. And they'd be like, oh, that's okay, you can still have one or two. And then I, tried ordering different things off of the menu that were looking slightly more interesting than water. And so I'd be going up to the bar and being like, can you give me some, mocktail that looks like what everybody else is drinking? But obviously, having all the intolerances, I couldn't actually drink those things either.
Oh, yeah.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain so much. I get it.
Oh, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. So, and like I said, 2017, there were none of the, I guess, new range of alcohol-free drinks available. I don't think it was until 2018 that even Seedlit first came into Australia. So it was really a completely foreign concept to have an alternative to drinking. And I guess for me, really that ritual of drinking was about connection and about, in some ways helping me out of my shell as well, but connecting with people and enjoying that experience. And so that I definitely really missed and found that hard to let go.
I think the best Australia could do in 2017 was probably a lemon, lime and bitters.
Lime and bitters. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yep.
So tell us then, Christina, you've been, sober for 4 years? 4-ish years, yeah, which is congratulations.
Amazing.
Yeah, congratulations.
So
That's
good.
huge.
Yeah,
I want to know, did you use tools in your early days of sobriety versus now? Do you use tools? So that's one question. I also want to know too, your partner Alan, does he drink? Can you tell us a little bit about that after you talk about your tools?
Yeah. So in terms of tools, I didn't really use any tools because the main trigger for me was feeling so sick. I guess there was sort of this whole framework around figuring out what those triggers were. And I guess that would have been the main tool. And if I, it was a long process. It was like 3 months of cutting out all of this food from your diet and then slowly adding it back in. And to me, if I sort of had a drink in the middle of that, that would ruin all of the work that I had done. So it was, kind of, that was the incentive or tool that I used in those early days. And I guess now it feels like there's a lot more available. There are, communities online, social media, there's podcasts, there's books, there's all sorts of things. But I really didn't find them when I was first going through this. So to the second question, Alan. So Alan and I really had a very similar experience of drinking. So neither of us really were heavy drinkers or drinkers at all before probably those first few years that I was in consulting. And he actually ended up in consulting as well a year after I did. And so we were really going through this same experience of like finding all of this drinking culture together at the same time. And, we ended up being that couple whose holidays would be to wineries, or we'd always be, doing a wine tasting on the weekend or going to a restaurant and doing some sort of food pairing and that sort of thing. So it was a really big part of, it became a really big part of our identities, I think, and who we were as a couple as well, which did then make it, sort of hard when I had to stop. But he was starting to feel those effects too. And I think as you sort of get a bit older, you don't bounce back at all. At all full stop. Yeah, it's pretty tough. And so he really started to feel that, I stopped drinking, so we stopped doing a lot of those alcohol-based experiences, let's call them. And he started to feel the difference for not doing those. And he very much appreciated the extra energy and the extra sleep and the extra brain space, I think. So he's one of those people who can moderate. He really does weigh up whether having a drink is worth it, and will only have it if he thinks it's worth it. So normally it's only if he's, like at a really fancy restaurant and he thinks a glass of red would go really well with a meal or something. So it's really now he weighs up whether it's going to be something that he's going to enjoy or not. And if it's a no, he's fine.
Wow. That guy.
I know. He's what we call a unicorn.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's self-control 101.
Yeah.
But I mean, having options available as well really helps. So, in those times where normally he in the past might have had a drink, he's got an option that is, just as good, and that helps him feel like he's not getting that feeling of missing out or being left out of the occasion. So that's a really big thing, I think, that's helped.
Huge, yeah.
I really like that extra brain space. I like that. That's a little quote for the today.
Well, I think that's something that I really felt as well, because like you sleep better, and then I wasn't constantly drinking caffeine, so I wasn't constantly like jittery, and I really found that I got a lot of mental clarity after I stopped, and it's the same.
Clarity is king, isn't it? Queen.
Queen.
Yeah, that's right. And then we had a little one and had the sleepless nights, which ended up to be like the equivalent, I think.
So, Christina, can we please talk about Altina? Have a look at this little lineup here. I'm so pumped. We are so pumped. But you've had a massive big rebrand. Sans agree, I've been dying to get my laughing gear around this since we very first had it. Breeze is on it as well. I'm just going to crack the can and show you what it looks like. But while we're doing that, tell us about Altina. Tell us why. Tell us your why and how it started, and what exciting. Tell us all about it. Go.
All about it. All right. So I'll take you back into those consulting days when, when I really started to cut back. Oh, look at that.
I know. How good is it? Look at the colour. Oh, my God. And it smells
Love
so good too. It takes you straight back to Spain, to Pamplona, running of the bulls. We spoke about that, didn't we, Breeza?
We did.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, so really back in those consulting days, and after I'd started trying to, I guess, socialise without alcohol, I actually had a couple of friends who were also pregnant at that time, and they were, you know, going through a similar thing of this was my life before, and now it's really hard to navigate socialising without alcohol. And we were all just sitting together one day, and one of them joked, they said, "Oh gosh, you could do this, Christina." And I'm like, no, I've got, you know, I could do something out of Breaking Bad, not this. You could, like, because I've got.
And just for our listeners, yeah, what's your degree, Christina?
So my background, I did an undergrad in chemical biotech, so chemistry stuff, and then a PhD in plant biology. So plants, figuring out how they work, basically. And then I sat and thought about it, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I could. And then I think one of them told me about this, the Booze Free spirit that was over in the US, and this was CLIP at the time, which was really one of the first forays into the whole new wave of non-alc drinks. And so I sort of had a little chat to Alan about it, a little joke about it. I was like, haha, this is funny. But at the same time, him and I, we were feeling, you know, really quite restless in our professional lives as well, and a little disillusioned with working, I guess, for the man or big multinationals and that sort of thing. And we sort of really got to this point where we were like, gosh, we want to do something that has an impact, that can make change in the world, that helps people. And so we were both looking at different opportunities around how we could help people in the not-for-profit space, or help certain causes and things. And then we came across this business model called social enterprise, which is where you essentially run a for-profit business, but it's got a social mission behind it. And like a light bulb just clicked for the both of us. We were like, that is what we want to do. That sort of would enable us to combine the best of both worlds. And so all of these things kind of just happened around the same time, and we would have our a really nerdy thing called a Tuesday thing, where we'd come with these like business ideas to dinner, and we'd like share all these absolutely awful business ideas. And one day,
was this with a group of friends, Christina?
It was just us. It was like,
what did you call it? Tuesday.
Like think tank. Tuesday think tank.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
No more Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. It's Tuesday think tank.
No, not something fun and cool like Taco Tuesday. We are definitely very nerdy, the both of us. And so, yeah, I thought that would be fun, a fun addition to our lives. And
so good.
A little bit embarrassing, but hey.
It's part of your story. It's great.
I love it.
How ideas are born. And yeah, one day that sort of Breaking Bad comment and idea came up, and I was like, hey, what about this? Like, that kind of does tick all the boxes, and it's something that we could do for sure. Like, how hard can it possibly be to make a drink that, you know, tastes just as good as a wine and is complex and sophisticated and doesn't have any sugar, or because back in those days any alternative was just like a juice or like chock full of sugar, and that was something we didn't like. I'm like, no, that couldn't possibly be so hard. And luckily we were really naive. Turns out if it wasn't so hard, people would have already done it. And so that all sort of just kicked off this idea of Altina, and we ended up getting into a social enterprise accelerator, where we really started to lay the foundations for what a business with a social mission could look like, and what Altina could look like. And at the same time, I built a little chem lab in my kitchen, and
cook up.
got cooking. We live in this really like the dodgiest suburb in Canberra that has a bit of a reputation, and so like we had an aircon repairman come one day, and I've just got this chem set up in the back of the kitchen, and he like keeps glancing over it. what is going on here? And I honestly expected the police to show up on my door.
I could just imagine you rocking around with a patch on the back of your leather vest. The rebels.
Those are the days, huh? So basically I started experimenting and really wanted to bring together the plants and the chemistry, and came at it from this perspective of we want something that is complex like a wine, that is that looks amazing but that tastes amazing, and is based on natural ingredients and plant-based ingredients. So that those were the things that were really, really important to us and to me as I was going through and experimenting. So I started with this big long list of plants and this big long list of, I guess, methods that alcohol producers use. So looked into things like winemaking and beer making and distilling and all those different methods and processes that people use, and figured out how to get flavors out of these beautiful plant ingredients without needing to use or produce alcohol. So without needing to ferment things, or without needing to add alcohol to them to extract all of those flavors, which obviously is not something that is really easy to do. Again, if it was easy, people would have done it.
Absolutely.
So that was really a big time of experimentation and trying to figure out how we could produce something that fits, that ticks all our boxes, and then how we could also run a business that ticked our boxes of having that impact on the community.
Were you still doing your consulting work full time, Christina, as well?
Yeah, so I'd actually just left the multinational I'd worked for, and at the same time I was starting a new job, but we also got that offer for the accelerator program. And so I managed to, at the last minute, negotiate in there just working a compressed work week. So I think it was Fridays off to work on Altina stuff, and obviously after work every day, and it sort of became a little bit all-consuming as it does. And then as part of that accelerator program, we were given an opportunity to run a crowdfunding campaign at the sort of the tail end of it. So that was in September 2018. And so we sort of set ourselves this goal that we'd use that as a way of testing whether people actually would buy non-alcoholic drinks, but also that if we were able to reach our goal with that campaign, that I would go full time or all in on Altina at that point. So that's what we did. We ran a crowdfunding campaign and got so much support from the Canberra community and businesses and the general public. It was absolutely phenomenal. So we ended up reaching our goal. It was probably one of the hardest months of our lives, of just hustling and trying to explain to people what we were creating, because we didn't actually have a product at that point.
Right.
Didn't actually know what that product would be, and was still experimenting with what kind of product it would be, to be honest, whether it would be like an alt gin or ended up being a cocktail. But yeah, so that was a real show of faith in, I guess, the concept of a non-alc drink, and showed people that this is something that people really want and need.
Yeah.
And that really kicked it off. So I went all in and got a product developed, and we officially launched on the 1st of December 2018, and had all of these wonderful, amazing people who'd supported our crowdfunding campaign come out to our launch party, and there were over 100 people. It was a wonderful sunny afternoon. We had this big space in a cafe. Everyone was drinking non-alc drinks. There was beautiful food, and it was just like the perfect proof that you don't need to have alcohol to have a really amazing social experience.
So
How good.
So good. And thank God you did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I feel like you've done the hard yards. Like, you were one of the pioneers in this space in Australia. Would you say that too, Christina?
Yeah. I mean, so I think Seedlip first came just when we got accepted into that accelerator program. It was stocked in maybe like one store in Melbourne or something. And then when we launched, I don't think there were any others available. And so, you know, poor old Alan, so he's the commercial director. So I made the product and he had to go and sell it. And he would go into bars and restaurants and they'd laugh him out. They'd just say, you know, people don't want this. Like, nobody's asking us for this. What? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Why are you doing this? And so, yeah, it was really hard yards in those early days because it was such a new space and there was very little consumer awareness and education, but also understanding from businesses, from the trade.
And now you're selling out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Look at it now. It's come so far in 3 years, and we're so proud of the whole alcohol-free community and all of the wonderful Australian producers as well. I think it's just so wonderful to see so many people in this space now, and really, like, you know, they say a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's 100% true.
Me with my curious hat on from a business angle here, Christina, as part of the accelerator program that you were involved in, was there a body of a project of research that you undertook to see what the demand was like out there, or was it just a gut feel and a conversation with your mates that did it?
Yeah, we took a really, we took the approach of wanting to test and talk to people about the idea a lot. So it was pretty much what we talked about for like 6 months, our poor friends. We didn't do like a formal go out and talk to, you know, a research group or anything like that. But we did talk to a lot of, I guess, people we didn't personally know. So they weren't, you know, invested in us doing anything one way or the other.
Sure.
And then it was really that crowdfunding campaign that we used, because, you know, you'll talk to people and be like, yeah, great idea. Yeah, good. But, you know, that's fine and well to say, but the real test is, will you put your hard-earned money where your mouth is? Will you actually pay for a product? And so having that crowdfunding campaign, I think, was a big part of the whole establishment of the business, not just for that proof of concept, but also we started to build this community of people who really believed in the idea and the concept and what we were doing. And that was a really powerful tool that we were then able to use. You know, we'd go out to that community and say, hey, here's a drink we're thinking about. What do you think? What do you like? What don't you like? And so we really did build the drinks in collaboration with our community.
Awesome.
And I think that really helped shape how they ended up and where they ended up.
Awesome. I think having that belief, that's half of the formula, isn't it? Having the belief that your product is going to work, which is awesome. So, Christina, you not only make these delicious, stunning drinks that Maso and I are obsessed with, you and Al are also on a mission to change the drinking culture within Australia. Tell us about how you're going about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess in those early days when we first started, and coming back to exactly what you just asked and said, we really needed something to say, hey, hospitality venue, people actually want this. And so we undertook a big research project a little bit later down the track to really understand what barriers there were for consumers and for venues and for retailers to providing non-alc options, and really did quite a bit of work to understand why there was such resistance to stocking these things. And so we found really interesting insights out of that we then went on and shared with the trade and with, you know, more broadly in sort of news articles and things. And that was something that really opened a lot of people's eyes. So, you know, we had all this data saying customers really want an option, and all this data on the other side saying venues don't believe that people want it because they never ask. And so it was sort of bringing that together in a way that made, I guess, business sense for venues, and then sense to consumers as to how they can, I guess, play a part in helping to make that change. And so that was really a big foundation for a lot of the work that we've subsequently done in helping to have those conversations about the drinking culture and prompt conversations with individual people about their relationship with alcohol and what serves them. So that sort of, was the foundation for things like the Zero Proof Festival, but also, I guess, leading the category and leading the space as well, and helping to make sure that it is really easily accessible to people and that it is something that people can have as an alternative when they're out at their favourite venue or they're at a retailer. And so that, together with now, as we're starting to, I guess, see that traction within the industry, is doing things like supporting those who are working in advocacy roles and working in the space to make those changes as well.
Amazing.
So good. Yes, so good. We touched on before your rebranding. Can we talk about that?
Yes, absolutely.
So amazing.
So stunning.
Congratulations on that. There's some amazing thought. We've spoken about this before, about the rebranding, but tell us, what other exciting things can we expect from Altina? But can you actually tell us, because remember we spoke about it, that's actually the flowers, isn't it? The part of the plants that are in the actual, very clever.
That's right. So we basically, we've been in the market for sort of 2.5, 3 years, and we really wanted to, I guess, make our product fit with how it's being used a bit more. So in those early days, we were a zero proof craft cocktail because I didn't know what else to call it. I was like, well, it's not really a wine at this point. It's not really. It's a craft cocktail. Let's stick with that. That sounds sexy. And so we talked to our customers and things, and really understood like how they were enjoying Altina and how people were serving it and that sort of thing, and really came to understand it does fulfill that original goal that I had, which was that replacement for a wine occasion. And so we really wanted to bring those insights together with, I guess, that blend of science and nature with the botanicals all together into a bit of a new look and feel. And so that's what's sort of come into this behind all of the sort of branding. You've got the different elements of what's actually in the drink. So what all of those beautiful plant ingredients are. So, for example, with our beautiful new sangria, which is everybody's new favourite, we've got the bold red fruits of the Shiraz, the E-Dawg Shiraz wine that we use. We've got the vibrant citrus notes. We've got the subtle native rye berry. So we use a native Australian ingredient, and we really want to showcase a native ingredient in all of our drinks, because I think that's something really special to Australia that everybody should get behind. And that complex and refreshing finish. So that's really sort of all wrapped up and blended in that complex blend behind the brand. And so we really want to reflect design-wise what we're doing from a production point of view, I guess, how the drinks all come together. And I think that's a big part of the experience as well. You know, if you're having something really great to drink, you want to kind of know some of that story behind it, and all the, I guess, probably not all the hard work and the science and boring stuff, but some of that, I guess, the more romantic and interesting stuff behind it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so beautifully thought out. And can I please give you a massive round of applause that you have? It's gluten-free and vegan. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. As a person with intolerances, I get it.
Massive deal. So thank you so much.
Nutrition front. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where can we find Altina?
Oh, yes. So we obviously have our own online store, and a lot of people find us through there. We do all sorts of sort of special bundles and things. But we're now available in selected Dan Murphy's around the country, selected BWS, lots and lots of independent retailers, and really focusing on this year, making us more accessible to people everywhere. So getting into more venues and really expanding where we're available. So that, together with the new Sandsbury and things, are what's the focus for the next little while before we jump into some more R&D for some new things coming.
So tell me, if any of our listeners are listening in and going, well, they don't stock it at my local Dan Murphy's, how do they go about getting it in stock? Do they ask the question, or what do they do?
Yeah, great question. So asking the question is always a great thing to do. It just means that, you know, if you're talking, or if the store manager notices like, 5 people have come in and asked for Altina, they can actually just go into the system and be like, I would like to buy some Altina. So I absolutely encourage anyone who would like to see more non-alc options in their local, go and ask for it. That's the most powerful thing that you can do, and really a way that you as a customer can be empowered. Otherwise, we do have on our website a stockist locator, and together with that is a little a contact form. So if we're not stocked in your area, you can suggest to us and be like, hey, Christina, I'd love you to be stocked.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's
down the road.
Yeah, that's right. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that creates like a really great way for us to say, hey, Mrs. Brown's Providore, we just had a customer come and tell us that we think your store would make a really great stockist for us. So
that's great. I love that.
Good. Yes, good question, Breeza.
And I'll give you a quick example that it does actually work if you ask the question. I popped into my local IJ Liquor, would have been last year, and I asked them if they had heaps, because they had a few beer brands, non-alc beer brands, but they didn't have the one I was after. I said, do you guys stock heaps normal? And they looked up on the system. They said, we can get it in. I'm like, sweet, good to know. And I hadn't tried it at that point. It was like $70 a slab. I'm like, no, just go and try it first before I, commit to a slab. Anyway, 6 months later, they stock it. They stock slabs of it.
Yeah.
So I asked the question.
Good job. Good job to you, because, it is like, it can feel quite intimidating, and it can also feel like you don't have any power as a consumer. But at the end of the day, businesses exist to serve the needs of consumers. And so you need to, I guess, voice what your needs are.
Yes. Yes, and listen up or you'll get less left behind, don't you think?
Yeah.
Get in
Absolutely.
there.
We're seeing that now as venues who don't have, an offering even, are really getting left behind.
Yeah, too right. So another quick question before I get on to the Quizmaster question. On your Tuesday night think tanks, was it always going to be Altina? Was it ever going to be Krallen?
Krallen.
Oh, yes, Krallen was a real hot contender.
That's got a good ring to it for a spirit, a non-alc spirit, I reckon, Krallen.
There you go.
Too good.
The name is awesome. So, obviously, if you haven't got non-listeners, it's Christina and Alan mixed together.
Yeah.
Like Brangelina.
Exactly.
But was it seriously always going to be Altina, though? Were you hashing around a few other names?
Yeah, so I remember there was a really long drive back to Canberra from Sydney, like 3.5 hours, and then we got stuck in traffic, and like the goal of our drive back was to like come up with the shortlist for some names, and like Altina wasn't, like, we'd never thought of using our names before this point. We really wanted something that, signifies an alternative and really comes behind those values that we have of that beautiful, sophisticated experience and things. And so there were tons of pretty awful, pretty average names thrown about. And then like literally half an hour before we were home, I was like, what about Altina? It's got the alt for alternative and all stories in there. And it was just like, how they say, like, stroke a brilliant moment. I was like, yeah, okay.
That's just taking things to a whole new level.
Totally.
Alternative.
That's so cool.
I love it even more.
Me too.
Oh, love that.
Lots of little tidbits you can discover about the brand when you sort of tread in a little bit. There's lots of hidden things for people to discover.
Well, when you bring your spirit name Krallen, it's CH's choice, yeah?
Yeah.
You are onto something.
On fire.
Stay tuned. Coming later this year.
You heard it first year.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
Well done.
So then, Christina, you like a drive. You like a little road trip. You love a little winery tour. We've got Alan driving your little. What was that car that you're in? That you.
I think it was a Dame, like a
destroyed.
1950s Daimlers or something. Yeah.
All right, we're in the Daimler. Alan's driving to your wineries, and they're offering non-alcoholic wines. You've got 3 people in the back. Who are they?
They would. Well,
Who are you road tripping with?
I feel like they would need to be people who really appreciate the fact that there would be non-alc wines at wineries. So it would probably have to be some people from the suburbs. Like normally it would be like my sister and a couple of friends, but I don't know, maybe we could have like a sober like space road trip. Maybe we could do that.
Oh,
no,
Do we get seats?
So good these days here in Australia. It's such a great, like, powerful way of people coming together. There we go.
And we can all drive too. We can all have a go at the
We
stick.
can all drive. Why limit it to the one car? We could do a little road trip and
A convoy.
I love it. I love it. So we're in. So who did we get? Did you have any particular names or even or celebrities that you might like sneaking in?
I'm not a big celebrity person.
Okay, we'll skip that.
We'll skip the celebrities, but I reckon we'd be able to get like a good 5 carfuls of people.
5 cars.
Who are all doing amazing things in this space, right?
I love that. Yeah.
We'll lead the convoy.
Yeah.
Yes, love it.
That's so good.
Text regret, you can't forget. Cellular memory deficit.
So I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, and I feel like my text regret is actually like I did not text regret instead.
Okay, yeah.
Because whenever I used to drink, I used to just like forget that my phone existed and that anything other than what I was doing and the people I was with existed kind of at the time. And
That's so good. So you're present.
yeah. I guess lucky in the sense that I don't have too many terrible text messages and didn't get too loose on the social media. But I know there's definitely been times where I should have texted and should have sort of checked in with people, or the next day definitely should have, done better than I did with communicating and keeping in touch with people. So, yeah, there's the flip side of the coin for you.
Did you get a little bit of, do you even care about me? Do you even
Yeah. Like I was like poor old Alan. Like I was awful whenever I'd go out drinking. Like he wouldn't hear from me all night. And he'd be like, when are you coming home? And are you okay?
So you need to say to him when you go, Alan, no news is good news.
Yeah, he ended up just assuming that was the case. Yeah, there were definitely times where like he'd come and like try and meet up with us and like
you were
there
right.
anymore, or like absolutely awful things like that. So
can also think of some non-text regrets as well.
It's time for the recommendation of the week.
Booze Free Bants podcast?
Yeah, I think this podcast is absolutely excellent, and you guys are winners. I think I would actually, not a thing, but more a habit would really be. So I got COVID back in January and completely knocked me out. Still can't walk up the stairs without puffing. But the thing that really like hit me hard was how important that like routine of exercise is to me, and like as a real stress release. Because I know that, back in the day, I used to use the booze as a stress relief. A terrible thing to do because it doesn't actually work. It causes more stress. But I think really making sure that I know what my like self-care needs are and sticking to those routines. That would be my reminder for the week.
Love that. Everyone needs a little nudge into reminding himself to do a bit of self-care. So that's a great tip.
Great tip. My self-care today is drinking Altina.
Same.
Can recommend. I mean, bubble baths, sitting out on the deck with a glass, having a nice meal, all great self-care tips.
Yes. And then you've still got brain space.
We've got brain space. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this chat today, Christina. It's great to get to know you on a personal level as well, because I feel like when we touch base with you, it's all about sort of business. So it's really nice to, peel those layers off and for you to share your story to not only us, but our listeners as well. We really appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for giving the opportunity.
Thank you. So nice to know you're a bit of a loose unit like we were.
And as always, thank you so much for your support. Thank you to Altina for showing their support and backing us in the very silly early days, but right back in the early days of the poddy. You approached us and we had discussions, and now here we are. So we appreciate everything you do for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Cheerio, everybody.
Thanks so much, Christina. See you later.
Bye. This podcast is proudly produced by our audio engineer, music extraordinaire, Erek Ladd.
We love you, Erek.